Dear friends, Excellencies, heads of state and government, and first ladies, former heads of state and government, and former first ladies, and heads of delegations. Special guests, Banyarwanda mwese. Abanyarwanda ndi busabe ko munyihanganira nkakomeza iri jambo mu rurimi abashyitsi bacu bari bushobore kumva neza. Today, our hearts are filled with grief and gratitude in equal measure. We remember our dead and are also grateful for what Rwanda has become. To the survivors among us, we are in your debt. We asked you to do the impossible by carrying the burden of reconciliation on your shoulders, and you continue to do so, continue to do the impossible for our nation every single day, and we thank you. As the years pass, the descendants of survivors increasingly struggle with the quiet loneliness of longing for relatives they never met or never even got the chance to be born. Today, we are thinking of you as well. Our tears flow inward, but we carry on as a family. Countless Rwandans also resisted the call to genocide. Some paid the ultimate price for that courage, and we honor their memory. Our journey has been long and tough. Rwanda was completely humbled by the magnitude of our loss, and the lessons we learned are engraved in blood. But the tremendous progress of our country is plain to see, and it is a result of the choices we made together to resurrect our nation. The foundation of everything is unity. That was the first choice, to believe in the idea of a reunited Rwanda and live accordingly. The second choice was to reverse the arrow of accountability, which used to point outwards beyond our borders. Now, we are accountable to each other above all. Most importantly, we chose to think beyond the horizon of tragedy and become a people with a future. Today, we also feel a particular gratitude to all the friends and representatives here with us from around the world. We are deeply honored by your presence alongside us on this very heavy day. The contributions you have made to Rwanda's rebirth and the people of Ethiopia and Eritrea helped us in starting to rebuild at that time. In fact, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who is here, even served as a young peacekeeper in the immediate aftermath of the genocide. There is Kenya, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo hosted large numbers of Rwandan refugees and gave them a home. Tanzania as well, and also played a unique role at many critical points, including hosting and facilitating the Arusha peace process. And here, I must single out the late President Julius Nyerere, who embodied the spirit which laid that foundation. The Republic of Congo has been a productive partner in rebuilding and more. Many of the countries represented here today also sent their sons and daughters to serve as peacekeepers in Rwanda. Those soldiers did not fail Rwanda. It was the international community which failed all of us, whether from contempt or cowardice. Among those here with us today, I salute the widow and daughter of the late Captain Mbaye Diagne of Senegal, who died a hero as he rescued many Rwandans from death. At the United Nations Security Council in 1994, moral clarity came from Nigeria, the Czech Republic, and even as far away as New Zealand. Their ambassadors had the courage to call the genocide by its rightful name and resist political pressure from more powerful countries to hide the truth. Ambassador Ibrahim Gambari of Nigeria and Czech Ambassador Karol Kovenda are here with us today, and we applaud you. Even in countries where government policy was on the wrong side of history, both during the genocide and even afterwards, there were always individuals who stood out for their honesty and humanity. We shall always be grateful. We also appreciate the tangible support we have received from partners beyond our continent over the past 30 years. In Europe, the United States, Asia, and many international organizations and philanthropies. A notable example of solidarity came to us from South Africa, one among many. Indeed, the entire arc of our continent's hopes and agonies could be seen in those few months of 1994. As South Africa ended apartheid and elected Nelson Mandela president, in Rwanda, the last genocide of the 20th century was being carried out. The new South Africa paid for Cuban doctors to help rebuild our shattered health system and opened up its universities to Rwandan students, paying only local fees. Among the hundreds of students who benefited from South Africa's generosity, some were orphaned survivors, others were the children of perpetrators, and many were neither. Most have gone on to become leaders in our country in different fields. Today, they live a completely new life. What lessons have really been learned about the nature of genocide and the value of life? I want to share a personal story, which I usually keep to myself. My cousin, in fact, a sister, Florence, worked for the United Nations Development Program in Rwanda for more than 15 years. After the genocide started, she was trapped in her house near the Camp Kigali Army Barracks with her niece and other children and neighbors, around a dozen people in total. The telephone in Francis' house still worked, and I called her several times using my satellite phone. Each time we spoke, she was more desperate. But our forces could not reach the area. When the command of the UN peacekeeping mission, General Dallaire, visited me where I was in Mulindi, I asked him to rescue Florence. He said he would try. The last time I talked to her, I asked her if anyone had come. She said no, and started crying. Then she said, Paul, you should stop trying to save us. We don't want to live anymore anyway. I quickly understood what she was saying, what she was trying to tell me. On the morning of May 16th, following a month of torture, they were all killed, except for one niece who managed to escape, and thanks to a good neighbor. It later emerged that a Rwandan working at the UNDP betrayed his Tutsi colleagues to the killers. Witnesses remember him celebrating Florence's murder the night after the attack. He continued his career with the United Nations for many years, even after evidence implicating him emerged. He's still a free man, now living in France. I asked General Dallaire what happened. He said that his soldiers encountered a militia roadblock near the house, and so they turned back just like that. Meanwhile, he conveyed to me an order from the United States ambassador to protect diplomats and foreign civilians evacuating from or by road to Burundi from attack by the militias. These two things happened same time. I do not need to be instructed to do something that goes without saying. That's what I was going to do. But the militias ran away, or rather peacekeepers ran away from militias, were manning a roadblock, do not blame General Daniel. He's a good man who did the best that could be done in the worst conditions imaginable, and who has consistently borne witness to the truth despite the personal cost. Nevertheless, in the contrast between the two cases, I took note of the value that is attached to different shades of life. In 1994, all Tutsi were supposed to be completely exterminated once and for all, because the killings that had forced me and hundreds of thousands of others into exile 3 decades before had not been sufficiently thorough. That is why even babies were systematically murdered so they would not grow up to become fighters. Rwandans will never understand why any country would remain intentionally vague about who was targeted in the genocide. I don't understand it. Such ambiguity is in fact a form of denial which is a crime in and of itself. And Rwanda will always challenge it. When the genocidal forces fled to Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, in July 1994, with the support of the external backers, they vowed to reorganize and return to complete the genocide. They conducted hundreds of cross-border terrorist attacks inside Rwanda over the next 5 years, targeting not only survivors, but also other Rwandans who had refused to go into exile, claiming thousands more lives. The remnants of those forces are still in eastern Congo today, where they enjoy state support in full view of the United Nations peacekeepers, their objectives have not changed. And the only reason this group today known as FDLR has not been disbanded is because their continued existence serves some unspoken interest. As a result, hundreds of thousands of Congolese Tutsi refugees live here in our country, in Rwanda, and beyond, completely forgotten, and no program of action for their safe return. Have we really learned any lessons? We see too many actors, even some from Africa, getting directly involved as tribal politics is given renewed prominence and ethnic cleansing is prepared and practiced. What has happened to us? Is this the Africa we want to live in? Is this the kind of world we want? Rwanda's tragedy is a warning. The process of division and extremism, which leads to genocide, can happen anywhere if left unchecked. Throughout history, survivors of mass atrocities are always expected to be quiet, to censor themselves, or else be erased and even blamed for their own misfortune. Their testimony is living evidence of complicity, and it unsettles the fictions which comfort the enablers and the bystanders. The more Rwanda takes full responsibility for its own safety and dignity, the more intensely the established truth about the genocide is questioned